Did you guys know that this is the day with the least amount of car accidents every year? Do you know why? Because we slept. So today, boys and girls, what I'd like to talk about is challenges. This is going to be a month as business owners and as human beings, I think we're going to be a little bit challenged. I want you to think back right now, just think back right now on a challenge that you have personally experienced. I want you to think back. I know whenever an exercise like this comes up for me, one of the experiences I think about is when I called off my wedding when I was, you guys, how old was I? I was 26, 27. I was about to get married. And I called off the wedding, which was really super hard because the guy I was going to marry was super nice. So nice, just not my guy. Wonderful human being. And I doubted it and couldn't go, I just kept going back and forth. I doubted it. The breakup was awful. Like, oh my gosh, so horrible because we were great friends. And whenever I question whether or not I can do something hard, I think back on that. Everyone else out there in the world was like, no, you're fine. And so what was hard was trusting myself over what everybody else wanted me to do. Does that sound familiar, like most of the stuff I talk to you guys about? I know, right? Like, yeah, where's your voice in all the noise? Where is your voice? Where's your stance in all of the advice you're getting and all the different things people are telling you to do? All of the different avenues in which people are trying to reach you, all of the social media channels, all of the regular news channels, everything your friends want you to do. Now that the holidays are coming up, we got to deal with what our family wants us to do and what traditions we're supposed to follow or not supposed to follow, all this stuff. I learned how to trust myself. You know, this last weekend, I took my daughter to a dance competition. It was very cold because given COVID and everything, it was outside. In the pouring rain, no less. It was actually really fun because talk about an adventure and a half. But it was about an hour and 20 minutes away. So we were driving and I was talking about pressure. And so we started talking about this time I called off the wedding. And she's like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? How? She goes, I'm really glad you did though, Mom, or I wouldn't be here. I was like, I know, isn't that funny when we think about things like that? I started thinking about how happy he is now, how happy I am now, all of the things that wouldn't have happened if I had allowed the pressure. I mean, you guys know, in this country, you start planning a wedding, the train takes off. It's like you're not even on it anymore. It just goes, right? So trying to stop that train so everybody could get off was no easy feat. Like it's going, right? And so we were talking about that and she said, wow, but how did you know? How did you know? Because clearly, Mom, I think you were right because he's happier. I think he's got like 3 daughters, 4 daughters. I don't know. I can't keep track. We don't really stay in touch, but here and there I hear things. And he's so clearly happy. His wife is amazing, right? So I look at all this and I'm like, wow, how did I know? It's always the softest voice in the room, you guys. And as we round out the year that keeps on giving, really rely on yourself to tell you which way to go next and how to behave today and then how to behave tomorrow. And if you want to back that up even more, because that's too far in advance to think right now, which believe me, I get. If that's too far in advance for you to think right now, think about how you want to be over the next hour. How do you want to handle the next 2 hours? How do you want to handle lunchtime? I mean, I'm not kidding because it's really a challenging time for us. And it's such an opportunity for us to bring out the very best in ourselves in a way that I don't think we've had an opportunity to do this quite like this ever before because there's so many facets of it, right? There's so many different levels of the challenges we're facing right now that it really is an opportunity no matter what your passions are, no matter what you decide to consume via the news or not. This is a time I'm really trying to rack my brain right now. I don't think we've ever gone through something like this, quite like this before, right? You got the social change, you got the political change, you got the virus, we've got the economic difficulty. I think we've got to change in the way that we deal with time. I think we've got to change in the way we deal with our day-to-day, right? All my kids are home virtually today, and as of last night, they were not going to be, right? This is like our new reality, so it's hitting us on every single level all day long, every day. And so my question to you is, who do you want to be in the face of that? That is not going to change. And in fact, I'm going to bet that it's going to get more intense. So what do you want to do about that? And I don't want you to get tired. I don't want you to be like, oh dear God, I don't want to think about it. No, let's just craft a plan now. So it's not so hard. And by the way, I go into great detail in this week's podcast episode. Huge detail. There's like 3 steps I'm going to walk you through that you can take to actually move through this in a really smart and I think a little bit of an easier way. Yeah? All right, let me jump to some comments here. Marla says, you want order and organization with your projects. I got it. So a lot of people are feeling disorganized and they're like, what projects? Am I working on any projects? What projects are there? I don't even know. So that's actually a really great one, Marla. I appreciate you saying that because organization's tough right now. And I'm not talking like Marie Kondo organization. I actually think that's easier right now. I think people are really happy to be throwing stuff away and get rid of stuff and like living a more minimalistic lifestyle. I'm actually seeing that more and more. I've seen it with students. I've seen it with one-on-one clients. There's definitely a conversation about throwing stuff out. So we're not talking about that kind of organization. We're talking about the kind of organization that allows you to get through your day and feel like you're in control. Good morning, Alexandra. You feel like you're back in March. I'm assuming you're talking about rising numbers. Is that what's bugging you about that? Because that could also go to feeling less organized, right? Because all of a sudden, what's being kind of lifted as we start to wonder what's going to happen and just the general unpredictability of everything right now, right? That we're all anticipating and feeling like what bump's going to happen today. And that's sort of like drinking from a fire hose feeling that we can have in these moments. What gets lifted out when we feel like we cannot predict what's going to happen over the next hour, literally, is the normal anchors throughout the day that let us know we're on track. Those get lifted, which is bananas, but true. Let's say you have a standing meeting at 11 and all of a sudden people can't make that because their schedule's just changed. You start to relax. You're like, oh, cool. Oh, I don't have to do that. And one of 2 things can happen. You actually use that time to get other things done, which I would definitely urge you to do, not in a frenetic way, but like in a really structured, like, okay, I just gained an hour. What was I going to work on this afternoon that I can bump up? That's what I would do with that time. 1, because your brain is fresher earlier in the day. You want to get stuff done. If something gets canceled in the afternoon or something changes in the afternoon because things are so unpredictable, my advice would be if you're still feeling really sharp, go for it. Look at what you wanted to do the next day. See if you can't bump it up. Or outline what you do want to do for the next day so that you can leave wrapped up. Because it's harder now as we are home to wrap up a day. Have you guys noticed that? I mean, I've always worked from home. Well, not always, like over the last 12 years I've worked from home. So I totally understand that like wrapping up the day can get tougher because you're like, wait. So 2 things about that as far as feeling organized and not feeling so frantic during this crazy time is wrap up the day. That's number 1. Like write down what you want to get accomplished the next day now. And then the other thing that you can do right out of the gate is make sure you move your office or your workspace somewhere that's out of the line of your sight line. How do you say that? The line of sight? As fast as possible so that when you are with your family or you're relaxing or you went home for the day, right, you don't see your workspace. That's really important. It's hard to do, and I know not everyone can do it. So if you are working in a communal area, like sometimes my kids and I will do all of our quiet work together. They're working on homework, I'm writing, or I'm creating the next podcast or whatever. So we'll do that together at like the dining room table. But as soon as we're done, I say, listen, pack up your stuff, close your laptop, and go put it in your room, get it out of the space. Okay? Because it just helps. You can't be on all the time. And part of what's happening with the unpredictability is we're always searching for what's coming. And what that causes is a really big challenge for our brain to stay focused on the task at hand, right? Because it's like, you're like those dogs in that movie Up where they have the collars that allow them to speak and you're like, squirrel, right? And you're like running around trying to do all this stuff. Meanwhile, the tasks that actually deserve your attention, the tasks that are going to move your goals forward, the tasks that are going to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish, those are going to go by the wayside because you're chasing the latest shiny object, and we don't want that. Now, we also had a podcast episode about that in October, so if you want to go back and check that out, please do. But shiny ball syndrome is a problem right now because you're panicking. And so your prefrontal cortex, which is the smart part of your brain, is not running the show Your little amygdala back here, which is your lizard brain, is running the show. And the panic is running the show. So my advice would be, if you're starting to feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening again? Oh my gosh, or you're not feeling organized throughout the day, is please, for the love of all things, close your browser windows. Like I just did, just close them. Put your phone on silent for an hour, especially if your family's home with you. Who the heck's gonna call you in an emergency? And if it's a client or customer, get back to them when you're done with your work time. I'm not saying turn it off all day. Turn it off for an hour so you can be productive. People understand you can be in meetings, right? We have this lie in our heads that we have to be available all the time. You're allowed to be in meetings and you're allowed to have productive time. So those are the two pieces of advice I give you. If it is absolutely not possible to keep your workspace out of your line of sight when you're doing other things in the house, maybe get one of those old, you can get them for like $1 at not the drugstore. Yeah, you can get them at the pharmacy or Staples or wherever, like those old trifolds. Remember we used to have those as kids and we had to take tests? And just block it off. I'm not even kidding. Just give your brain a break. When we feel panicked like this, or we feel like things are unpredictable, the brain starts firing like crazy, and you need to respect it and give it a break. The other thing I'd like you to do, I'm not wearing mine right now because I'm looking into a camera, I'm not looking at a screen, is your blue screen glasses. Like $12 on Amazon, please protect your eyes, okay? Just had to throw that in there. That's your PSA for today. All right, my people, let's get back to some more questions. Doreen says, currently my personal challenge is getting to know relatives for the first time. I'm discovering my birth family. Oh my gosh. And your ethnicity. I had no idea, but had always suspected that you were a person of color. Well, can we just have a pause for that? That's freaking amazing. Talk about facing challenges. That is incredible. I'm so excited. Like I want to crawl through the camera and hug you right now. That's amazing. Okay. Rama says 1000% multitasking all the time. Our kids need us. We need us. Our business needs us. And you're keeping up with all of it. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about the multitasking because it's a thing. Now, there have been studies. I don't know if you guys know this, but there have been studies about like CEOs who are in a productive moment, right? So let's say they're doing the strategy plan for the next 90 days, or they're really writing a mission, or they're working on the company culture, right? They're really ingrained in a project that takes their quiet time and takes brain power. If you interrupt the CEO, which I'm assuming is you, if you interrupt the CEO in that moment, it can take them up to 45 minutes to get back to what they were doing and to be in that flow again. And it does not matter if the interruption was 5 seconds, 45 seconds, or 2.5 hours. For them to get back into that flow takes another 45 minutes to get their brain back on track. You guys, minimizing distractions is one of the most important things we could do. Now, that being said, it's just hard right now. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. I'm not gonna pretend like it's super easy. You guys know I will tell you like it is. It's really hard. And it's been my #1 challenge. I've been talking to my coach about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how hard it is for me to get stuff out I used to just get out. And it's because I don't have the time alone in the house anymore that I used to have, right? And that's a thing. That's a real thing. So a couple of things that we can do about that. One of the bigger productivity studies I did personally a couple years ago was about how important it is to have a 40% interruption time scheduled into your tasks. Let's say you think a task is going to take you an hour, right? Let's say you're writing your next blog post, or you're writing a newsletter, or you're taking an online course and you've scheduled an hour of time for yourself to do that. You're doing extra journaling, maybe you're prospecting, whatever the task is. Let's say you set an hour aside for that task. I'm now going to say during this time, to help you not lose your freaking mind, schedule in an extra 40 minutes. That's a 40% interruption time. So things are going to take us longer right now than they normally do. And instead of being pissed off, hopefully never at yourself, but also not being snappy with your family, not being snappy with your clients and customers, but actually getting to the work, is to put in that extra time. Okay, so now you've got an hour and 40 minutes scheduled for that time, all right? And great, if you don't get interrupted today, fan-freaking-tastic, you do finish it in an hour, you now have an extra 40 minutes to do whatever you want to do. Make sense? Kathy says she's working hard on less anxiety. We have anxiety around trying to control the environment, right? And understandably so. Understandably so. Even yesterday, like I said, my daughter had a dance competition and they had us in an open tent, right? We all had masks on. Everyone was so great. And I still stood almost outside the tent because I don't really feel comfortable being around that many people at one time. And they were handling it great. Like they were wonderful. I was so impressed. And still I took extra steps, right? When we have anxiety about trying to control things we cannot control, right? You cannot control other people's behavior. I couldn't control if somebody came up and started close talking to me, even though I'm standing outside the tent, right? Like there's things like that that will happen. So a couple of fun things we've talked about, right, is get a really funny t-shirt that says stand back. I have an autoimmune disease. Please be respectful, with a smiley face or some other joke or funny thing or favorite movie quote. Something great like that you can put on there to let people know without you being a jerk, right? And it also adds humor back into this because it reminds us of our shared humanity and the fact that there's no one against someone else here. As much as we can create that, we want to be the ones creating that we're not against anybody. We're all in this together. And I realize that's not the general sentiment, but if we're going to make it shift, it's got to start somewhere. And I say it starts with us. So I would say number one, be as human as you can, be as honest as you can. Number two, remember that when we start to feel anxious, it's because we're thinking about the future. We can't control the future. Just deal with what's in front of you right now. And I know that sounds super simple, but like I always say, I am not interested in what you think you know. I don't care about that. I'm interested in what you're actually doing. And a lot of people go, oh yeah, I know that. And then they don't apply it. So I'm not interested. Okay. You have to actually apply that, which is deal with only what's in front of you right now. The final thing here, I think, is really about trusting yourself to know in each specific situation, you will bring your best self to the moment. That's hard. Right? That's hard because, I don't know about you guys, but I've certainly found myself throughout this entire year, I haven't always been 100% proud of my responses. I usually fix it pretty quickly and I clean it up pretty quickly, but I'm like, what the heck was that, right? I'll snap or I'll be grumpy and I'm like, wait, I don't act like this. What am I doing, right? And so it's a humility and a recognition of the amount of stress we're under and that's okay. And we can still bring the best version of ourselves to it. And part of bringing the best version of ourselves to these moments is understanding we do need to be humble and it is going to be hard and we're not special. It's not like, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to be great. And we're all susceptible to this. And our job is to help each other get through it to the best of our ability. And that includes helping ourselves get through it to the best of our ability. So I hope that's helpful. I hope I answered your question on that. Let me know. So Claire says, lately, whenever I feel like I'm on the edge, I realize it's because I haven't been sleeping enough, eating well, drinking enough water, or working out. All because I thought I can neglect those to gain more time. Never. Never, never, never. And this again goes back to self-trust. All right? It's not okay. Hear me. You know, it's my favorite thing to say. I'm like, I look at these back sometimes. I'm like, boy, I say hear me a lot. Listen to me. It's like, oh my God, if I could crawl through the camera, right? Listen to what I'm about to tell you. It is never okay to skip a workout, to not drink water, to eat crappy food that's made by a machine instead of coming from the earth, or missing sleep. Ever. There's a reason this is the day there are the fewest car accidents every year. It's because people have slept an hour more, or at least even 20 minutes, half an hour, 15 minutes more. That's the difference. The least amount of car accidents every year is on the day we turn off daylight savings because we get that extra hour. It is never okay to eke out an extra 15 minutes, an extra 20. It's just not. Because what you're actually doing is you're taking away hours of productivity and happiness and replenishment from the next day. And I promise you, the 30 minutes to work out, the 20-minute walk, the extra water at your desk, the fresh food instead of the garbage. And this does not have to be expensive. I think we calculated how much I spend on food every day. You guys, I'm all organic. I'm super whole food, all that stuff. We got it down. I think I'm at $8 a day. And that's totally organic. I swear to God. You guys, you can do this. This is not crazy. All right. And that's because I'm crazy. I'm totally organic, all the hyper stuff. There's just no excuse. It takes a little bit of planning on a Sunday evening to make sure you have what you need to be as healthy and strong and as replenished as you can be. If you are up past 11 p.m., whatever your time zone is, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is when most of the hormones in your brain are getting replenished. Please protect that time. You are not a machine. You are a human organism that operates on certain principles. I didn't even make them up. I wish I had, I did not. Okay? You gotta protect them, and it's never okay to sacrifice that to get one more thing done. It's just not. It will never be worth it. You can never talk me into it. We'll fight about it forever. It is always better for you to go to bed, drink your water, eat well, okay? And move your body. And sometimes that might mean, you know, even in between, you guys, sometimes at night if I'm watching the news or my kids want to watch a movie, I'm pacing. I'll pace behind the couch. I'll do other stuff. Like, I'm just making sure my body moved. Self-compassion and planning are key. If you really want to get this done, that's the best way to do it. You guys just be nice to yourselves. This is not normal. Well, it's our new normal, right? But fighting what is and wishing it's the way that it was is not going to serve you. This is the way it is now. You got to accept that. When we talk about accepting the present moment, that's what we're talking about. This is it. This is what you have to deal with right now. You can get pissed about that, or you can start kicking ass by dealing with the fact that this is what we have now, because it's what we have now. So here's the deal, beautiful souls whom I love and adore. Please make today amazing. I know we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty right now. You can handle it. You can do this. You got to plan a little bit better, be a lot more self-compassionate, and deal with the moment that you've been given, not the moment you wish you had. Deal? All right, you guys, have a beautiful week. All right, I'll see you. Bye.